Hello, I'm Marites Vitug, and this is Worldview, where we take a look at global, regional, and national affairs in conversations with officials, newsmakers, and analysts. Joining us today is Australia's ambassador to the Philippines, PHAu, and we will be talking about the elevation of relations between our two countries, the Philippines and Australia. Welcome to the show, Ambassador. It's so great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, let's start with the most recent development of forging a strategic relationship between the Philippines and Australia. What can we expect from this? What does this mean for both countries?
Sure. It was a really historic event when our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, came to Manila on the 8th of September to meet with President Marcos. And the two leaders elevated our relationship to a strategic partnership. We actually had what was called a comprehensive partnership before that in 2015. And as you can see, the elevation to a strategic level within such a short period shows how strong our bilateral relationship has become over a very short period of time. The strategic partnership is really a description of being strategic as partners, and what we can actually expect under that is even deeper cooperation between our two countries. May I just say, our relationship is long-standing, and we've actually had bilateral diplomatic relations for 77 years now, and it's been a very strong cooperation, but I'm sure you will agree too that in this world where there is a lot of big challenges facing us and we live in a complex and challenging environment, we need our friends and partners more than ever. And that's what this strategic partnership is all about. It's an expression of both countries' intention to do more in the interest of both our countries, but even more broadly, for the interest of our region. So it's no longer just a bilateral transactional relationship, but one that is strategic and one where we actually share same values and same vision for the kind of region that we want to live in.
Yeah, actually, Australia is the only third country wherein we have a strategic partnership. First was Japan, Vietnam, and Australia. So
right.
Concretely, will we expect more maritime security cooperation or joint patrols or joint sails in the West Philippine Sea?
We can pretty much expect more of everything across the whole facet of our relationship. Yes, of course, in the maritime zone, there will be even greater level of cooperation and assistance. And we have already shown that through our foreign minister's announcement around further assistance we want to provide to the PCG. And that ranges from equipment to training to even courses like the Law of the Sea courses, because we believe what's really important is that the Philippines and the officials that are responsible for protecting your sovereignty and your territorial rights, that they know what the law is and how it should be applied to the situation facing the Philippines. So we're already doing a great deal there, and we are expecting to do more. And of course, it's going to be one of partnership, where it's driven by the needs of the Philippines. But in other areas, we are also doing more and more, and it's really exciting times, actually, Marites. And I'm so happy that I get to be the Australian ambassador during these very exciting times.
It's also a time of uncertainty. China's assertiveness, of course, in the region and in South China Sea. I think this was a factor also considered in elevating our relationship.
Well, there are many factors that actually go into considering elevation, but I have to say these. The elevation of the strategic partnership, the main driver was the fact that both the Philippines and Australia saw the elevation as something that was in both our national interests. every country in the world actually operate in order to advance their national interests. This is not about a third country. It's really about what is in the interest of the Philippines and Australia. And both sides came to a conclusion that the elevation of our relationship to strategic partnership was a very important step in advancing our relationship.
We've had 77 years of diplomatic relations. But before these exciting times, I think some commentators, both from the Philippines and Australia, describe our relations as undercooked, low profile, and undervalued. So, but you said it's a changing environment, plus the realization that our countries can share more cooperation that led to this. So that's the underlying reason, more than the geopolitical environment?
Well, I mean, even when I look at the history of our bilateral relationship, all the way back to 77 years, I would not have chosen undercooked, undervalued, and low profile, because nothing about our relationship is undercooked, low profile, and undervalued. And perhaps with your indulgence, I could actually go into details about how strong our relationship has been. And, when you look at all the different elements and aspects of a bilateral relationship, development. We've had such long-standing relationship with the Philippines, and Australia's development program, I'm talking about now ODA, I'm not talking about all the other cooperative work we do together to increase each other's capabilities. I'm talking about pure ODA. Our ODA for the Philippines is Australia's 5th largest in the world, and it has been on an ongoing basis. And on top of that, it is actually going up in value as well, which I'm very, very pleased about. We've had some increase to our budget over the last 2 years as well, consecutively. So that's an area where we've been here for decades. And to give you an example of some of the areas we've been in, Mindanao. Counter-terrorism focus has been a big one for us because we're neighbours, and what really matters, what happens in the Philippines really matters to Australia. So when the Marawi siege happened, we were here, right by our friends, helping through how to deal with this internal threat. And we never left. We've been there consistently, working with the people in Mindanao to help with their livelihood, to help with their peace building, and so it goes on. So that's just development space. When you look at our defense and security cooperation, once again, it's such an exciting story. So our defense colleagues, we also are only one of 2 countries that have a SOFA agreement with the Philippines. So with that, we have been able to engage in lots of joint training, exercises. Now, of course, when you were faced with a lot of your internal security challenges, a lot of the focus was on dealing with that. But nonetheless, those training have been going for decades. And it's only expanding and increasing in numbers and size. But even in the security space, the work that we are doing with PNP through our Australian Federal Police is something that I'm really, really proud of. We have been working with PNP to work on online sexual abuse and exploitation of children now for many years. And we are helping PNP and working with them not only in terms of intelligence sharing, but also capacity building that led to actually saving more than 600 children out of harm's way. So these are some of the excellent things that we are continuing to do, and we will only expand and further strengthen. And then that leads me to people links, where for many years now, the Filipino diaspora in Australia is one of our largest, currently our 5th largest, with 400,000 people, Filipinos calling Australia home. Just like me, they are new Australians, and that's what makes Australia so wonderful. So you can see how strong that is, and of course, that is propped up by Australian award system, which is a scholarship that Australian government provides to future leaders, amazing leaders in the Philippines. And I love talking about this story because, you know, so far we have over 3,500 Filipinos that have received Australian scholarship, gone to Australia to do masters and other courses and have come back. And they're doing amazing things. And in fact, this morning I went to see the new commandant of the PCG.
Yes.
He's wonderful.
He graduated from an Australian university, right?
A proud Australian alumnus, right? And look at him. He's the commandant of the PCG. This is what some of the Australian alumni network members do when they come back to the Philippines. And, you know, the important point is they do come back. And Australian government ensures that we have a really good plan, that we work with them about how they're going to put their study into action when they're back in the Philippines. And these people are doing amazing things all over the Philippines.
I think what's the difference today or in the past month, maybe a year, is the visibility of our relations. Because I was just looking at some of the firsts. First large-scale joint military-navy exercise in August. First visit of a prime minister in almost 2 decades, plus succession of 4 high-level visits since January. Your Minister for Defense, your Special Envoy for Southeast Asia, Trade Minister, and Foreign Minister. So I think maybe this is why people think there's much more intense relationship now because of this visibility.
I've been a busy girl. Can you tell? Now that you spell it out like that, it's like, yes, I've been a very, very busy girl. And I'm delighted. You are quite right. There is definitely greater visibility of what we do together as two nations. And I think that's a really good thing. Some of the factors that are driving that, of course, you have the new Marcos administration in place. And of course, you've continued to face some challenges in the West Philippine Sea. So those are some of the factors. On Australia's side, we've had a new government elected last year, around the same time as Marcos administration. And upon being elected, the government made it very, very clear that our engagement with Southeast Asia will have a big step up. And that was for a number of reasons. One, because Southeast Asia actually presents amazing economic opportunity for the world, let alone just Australia. So it is really important that we have close relationship with Southeast Asia because, you know, its economic future will drive Australia's and the world's future prosperity. Two, and a really important point, is that it is currently at the heart of where the rules-based order is being challenged. And we as neighbours and very close friends and partners, we want to work with the Philippines, and of course the Philippines want to work with Australia to ensure that we can do whatever we can, both individually, bilaterally, and frankly with other like-mindeds, to protect what is so, so important to us, and that's rules-based order. Because we both want to live in a region where it's stable, peaceful, and prosperous, where sovereignty is respected, and it is driven by rules. And I think these are some of the factors that are coming together to actually provide greater visibility of what our two countries are doing more and more together.
Yeah, speaking of like-minded countries, so, there seems to be more cooperation now among Philippines, Australia, and the US. So, what's the potential of this trilateral cooperation?
You know, I think once again, this is a case of whether it's been visible or not in the past. I think that cooperation has always been there. because both the Philippines and Australia are US allies.
Yes.
We both are. We share so many things, the Philippines and Australia. We face similar challenges. We, US allies, in so many ways. We face similar conditions. And so the three countries, I think it's fair to say, have always worked well together. And given the global challenges that we face, and by the way, some of the global challenges don't just end with the challenges to rules-based order. We're also seeing climate change being a major global challenge that can only be addressed if we all work together. So these are some of the challenges that countries like the US, the Philippines, and Australia can actually work together on. So I think that's what you are seeing more of in this environment.
I'm also curious about, because Australia is a maritime democracy, a maritime country, similar to the Philippines. How are you able to inculcate in the youth or among Australians about like maritime awareness? In the Philippines, we have low maritime awareness. We're mostly land. We think of land mostly rather than the water. So is that in your educational system? How do you inculcate the value of or the awareness that you're a maritime country?
I mean, that's a really interesting question because you're made up of more than 7,000 islands.
I know.
I don't think Australia's got 7,000 islands. We've got a few, but nonetheless, we are surrounded by water as well in Australia. Look, I think the Philippines is making great headway with your maritime domain awareness. Some of the ways that we actually engage with the Philippines to raise, Filipinos' maritime awareness is not only through security cooperation and security angle, but also through environmental protection angle. So in Australia, we have actually a lot of natural resources on our land as well. Just like in the Philippines, in fact, you have very rich minerals in your land. But we also are very cognizant of the fact that we're surrounded by ocean. And we understand the value of blue economy. And so that's something that is taught from very young age, I guess, in Australia. And that is something that is talked about in general public. This concept of blue economy, and the concept of needing to protect the blue environment. And so what we've been doing with the Philippines is actually engage in some very interesting and impactful maritime environmental projects. So if I could, give you just a little bit of sample of what some of them are. One that we've been working with Department of Environment and Natural Resources is around marine plastics. Plastics being the biggest polluter of our oceans. And so we have been engaging with them and teaching the staff of DENR on how to measure the plastic pollution so that you actually have a baseline from which you can develop policies to reduce that. So that's one example. Another example, and this is one of my favorites, so please excuse me if I get too excited about it, is actually working with your coral beds. Now, we all know how important coral is for the health of the ecology in the ocean. And we have seen a lot of damaged coral beds. And one of the projects that we're doing, and I call this how to regenerate coral, I call this IVF for corals. So these scientists from Australia have invented this method whereby you actually capture when they're spawning naturally, right? When the corals are spawning naturally, you capture that, and then you artificially inseminate, basically, right, to regenerate new corals. And this has led to such success. I've seen photographs of coral beds with 6 months apart where this was done, and it was like whole new, vibrant.
Here in the Philippines?
In the Philippines. Oh. Here in the Philippines, near Palawan and Zambales area as well. And so these are some of the exciting things that we are doing to really embed some of the know-how and help you to really focus on environmental issues as well. And recently, we've also gifted and taught the Philippine counterparts how to do geospatial monitoring of your coral bed so that you can actually see what the state of it is and which areas you need to further improve. So these are some examples of how we bring about that maritime domain awareness to every Filipinos, everyday Filipinos.
It's the first time I'm hearing of it. I feel guilty.
No, that's fair. That's why I'm here to tell you all the great work we're doing.
But something struck me during Prime Minister Albanese's visit to the Philippines when he announced, I think it was one of his priorities, he announced that there will be a Philippine Institute at the ANU in Canberra.
That's right.
So is this a first, and what will this achieve, or what can we expect from this?
That's right. Very exciting announcement. ANU, by the way, is one of the best universities in Australia. And perhaps I'm biased because I went there for one of my degrees. But certainly very highly regarded. And the Prime Minister announced the establishment of the Philippine Institute within ANU. And what this is going to do is bring together the research and universities of both countries closer. And actually with the view of this joint research, joint work, supporting both countries' policy development processes. So, it's got a pretty big mandate, and it's really about bringing all the amazing brains that are out there with the interest of combining the efforts and assisting both countries towards better policy settings. So it's completely independent from the government. We can't tell them what to do. It's a pure university institute funded by the government, but certainly their work mandate, they will actually determine. And so as part of that, we had those responsible, the director who's going to be responsible for the institute, and his boss here recently. And they were doing a whole round of consultation to work out what areas they should be looking into. So the research is a big component, and they do really want to bring Filipino academics together with Australian academics to put their minds together. Another thing they are going to do is make sure, in a very independent and sound way, run lecture series. So when you've got really good, very high-profile Philippine decision makers, private sector people, NGO or think tank going through Australia, that they will actually have a platform from which they can actually share their thoughts. Another thing they're going to do is a regular, what they call Philippine update. And this is driven to keep the understanding of the Philippines high in Australia. So, it's the other way around. I'm here to tell you about what we do here to try and increase the Philippines' awareness of Australia. The Philippine Institute will also have a similar role, but about raising the profile of the Philippines and issues facing the Philippines for Australians.
Something to look forward to.
Absolutely. And perhaps if you go that way, you could also be one of the lecturers. I'm sure they would be very happy to host you as well.
One final question. I'm really very pleased that you're Korean born, but now
because of Korean dramas or just because
Korean literature as well. And now you're representing Australia, an ambassador, and also your foreign minister. Penny Wong is Malaysian born.
Oh, that's right.
And then I just realized that your prime minister is of Italian descent, but was born in Australia. It's a new multicultural scene in Australia, or is this been going on for some time?
It's been going on for some time, let me tell you. And this is what's so wonderful and beautiful about Australia. As a new Australian myself, Yes, you did your research. I was born in South Korea and I moved to Australia when I was 11. I am so proud to be a citizen of a country where we have this vibrant multiculturalism, but it goes well beyond that. Australia is a country where hard work is rewarded and where everyone is given fair go. It doesn't matter what your background. So just by looking at who our leaders are, you can see quickly, right, that doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what heritage, doesn't matter where you were born. If you work hard and if you've got this ambition, you will be rewarded because absolutely everyone is treated the same way. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about being an Australian. And this is why I'm so excited. We have more than 400,000 Filipino Australians because you know what? They also contribute enormously to the Australia that we are today. Because of Filipino Australians, we have this vibrant diaspora who is bringing Filipino culture and food to Australia, and Australians love it. And they actually also work in all the different sectors, and quite a lot of them actually providing leadership in those sectors in Australia. And this is what makes Australia such a fantastic country.
And Australians coming here, or at least living here, also bring. Is there something like a food culture?
Well, this is a good one because often people say, "Well, what is Australian food culture?" And I love to tell everyone, well, I have a multicultural taste buds. And in our family, and in fact, every Australian family, I promise you, their discussion over dinner will be something like, what should we have tonight? Vietnamese, Filipino, Italian, Greek, or Turkish? All of those cuisines are Australian cuisines. And I think the one key thing, the common factor that holds all of our food cuisine together is the quality of our produce. Australia produces some of the best, fresh fruit, vegetables, and fantastic dairy and meat. And so when you cook with that, doesn't matter what cuisine it is, it just tastes really, really good.
On that very positive note, we have to end this interview. We have run out of time. But thank you to our viewers and to our listeners. Thank you, Ambassador. And this has been Worldview. And I'm Marites Vitug. Good day.